Hello, my name is Daniel G. Wilson, and this is DGAW Spotlight. Today on Spotlight, I'll be talking to Paper Sky.
What's up? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
That's excellent. Well, Paper Sky, or would you prefer if I called you Julian?
It's fine, whatever you want to call me, man. I'm good with whatever.
I have to ask you. Now, I've noticed with your work, I've noticed that you do it all by yourself, correct?
I do, yes.
Tell me about what is about the process of making everything yourself, the writing, the singing, all the instruments. What is it about that? What is it about doing it yourself that you like?
This is kind of interesting creative freedom that some people have told me you can't really experience in a band as such. I've been told by many people, at least ones who have not had good experiences in bands, that having a solo project is something that you can exercise all your creative freedom in. And some people would argue that it's selfish, but I'd love to be in a band someday. But right now, it's kind of I like writing exactly what is like straight from my mind, So it's kind of like that. That's what I enjoy the most about having a solo project.
Very cool. My next question is this: Bless the Fall.
Bless the Fall.
Yes.
Bless the Fall. Well, back in the day, I was a metalcore kid. And I was a big fan of Bless the Fall. I still am, honestly. I don't listen to that many metalcore bands anymore, but I listen to a few of them. For example, Breakdown of Sanity from Sweden are a great band. And Bless the Fall, for a long time, were kind of like a big influence on my own guitar playing, and their songs are something I used to improve myself a lot. And I've been to a live show and met them, and they were all great dudes. And so, I was just really into them at one point, and still love them. They have a place in my heart.
Very cool.
Mm.
Now, speaking of metalcore, yes,
Yeah.
I'm aware of your history with metalcore.
Yeah.
I remember that your solo project, before you changed your solo project, the name to Paper Sky and your sound to the current, shall we say, kind of more emo inspired sound, for lack of a better term of phrasing. Explain how you transitioned from that early metalcore sound to where you are now. Explain that.
Okay, so basically the idea of changing from the metalcore sound initially started not with me kind of moving away from metalcore in terms of like my influences and what I listened to, but more so the fact that I literally had the worst recording setup in history. Like, it was the worst thing for recording metalcore. Like, it would probably be easier to record the kind of music that I play now back then than recording metalcore. Like, I used to record all my guitar tracks on my iPod and then put them over this drum track, and I'd spend like an hour trying to piece together this one, say 4 bars of guitar riff perfectly in sync with the drums, and it wouldn't work. And so from then I kind of promised to do all these EPs and all these albums, and I was just getting nowhere with it. I didn't have the writing ability at that time to do that. And then I kind of moved away from it, and not only did that happen, but my tastes changed and my influences changed, and I kind of got into kind of lo-fi and emo bands like American Football and Tiny Moving Parts, and I was kind of like, this is pretty cool, and it seems doable to an extent, way more than what I was doing last time. So I kind of moved away from metalcore and transitioned to emo, I guess, and that's how it changed. And I decided with the drastic change in sound, I should change my name to Paper Sky, so I changed it. And that's how it happened.
Very cool. Well, I have to say, I very much enjoy the direction you've taken. I very much enjoy the music you've made since the stylistic change and progression you've had.
Thank you very much, man.
I must say, you are also a very good guitar player.
Thank you.
Now, my next question is about a recent release you had. You recently had a split release with Jonathan Fraser.
That's right.
How would you describe his sound? More of a kind of ambient, somber, often acoustic singer, artist from America. Explain how that happened.
Well, I met John on YouTube actually. I came across, I think, a rant video about high school that he made. It's interesting. I never came across his music first, and then I realized, oh, this guy's a guitarist. He's actually a musician. So I went over to his Bandcamp page, and he'd released this album called, I believe, After 13 Years You Left Us and Flew to the Sky, which was kind of this very melancholic, soundscapey post-rock album, which had a lot of kind of like melancholic, folky influences, because he primarily uses an acoustic guitar. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, no offense to the guy, but at the start I was like, this is plain acoustic guitar for like, say, 10 tracks. This should be really boring, but it wasn't. Like, the guy really knew his way around chord progressions and stuff, and I was really, really impressed. So he was actually kind of like teasing a new album, an album called Soundtrack to an American Giallo, which I would highly recommend if you're a post-rock fan. It's really, really quite amazing. And I listened to it for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is great. I'm going to have to share this. So I shared it, and because he was quite a kind of low-profile musician, he picked up on the fact that I'd shared it, and he friended me on Facebook, and we started talking for a while. And he was like, oh, if you want to collab anytime soon, I'd be down for that. And I was like, wow, I'd really be down to do a split with you. So we ended up doing a split, and it was great. And I read some of the spoken word on the track Lost Brothers, which is on his side.
Very cool. Very cool. That was a very interesting release, I must say.
Yeah, it was an interesting one.
What was it like collaborating with someone overseas, for example? Just not overseas, but just collaborating with someone in general for the first time, I guess. What was that like?
It's kind of surreal, I guess, considering Jonathan is he's from the West Coast of America. He's from California, and so it's kind of just interesting collaborating with somebody so far away for a start, but just collaborating with another musician in like that kind of post-rock, emo, Midwestern, what have you community as such online. It was just very interesting to have that kind of interaction for the first time. So I was pretty stoked on that.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you know a band called Invalids?
I do indeed. I love Invalids. Pete Davis is God, basically. He's fucking love that guy. He's great.
Yes, he is.
He's a happy man all the time, and he's just always he's great. He's always posting on Facebook all the time all these like new riffs and stuff, and I'm always there.
Cool. Well, I reference him because I remember in the earlier days of Invalids, he collaborates with this bass player, but then they never. I don't know if they've met yet, but I know he didn't meet him, the bass player he collaborates with, for like several years while the project was going on.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah, he had a bass player who played, I think it was on Eunoia or Strengths, who he'd never met until they became a band.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I wish I could write music like Invalids, but I don't dare go into that, because like it's just so complex. Like the meters change all the time, and I'm just like, I can't. Like I've tried writing like Invalids before, but I don't have the talent. Maybe with a band one day. I don't know. But it's just a very uplifting math rock band, and I just love them.
Yes, they are very uplifting.
They are.
I particularly want to grow a beard like Pete Davis, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that man's beard is like. I remember one time he did like the Slain video sessions. He had a beard that just like down here. It was great.
Now, my next question is this. So, Julian, you're wearing a shirt.
I am indeed.
Now, I know that shirt is a shirt you always wear. In fact, I remember you once said that was a shirt you wear so much as if you do not change it at all. Explain
that's right.
Why you like that particular shirt.
I like this particular shirt because this is perhaps my all-time favorite screamo band. Orchid, I think, they were the turning point that got me into like screamo music, and then I went to like more emo stuff. Like when my first EP came out, I was hugely into like Being as an Ocean and La Dispute, and I still am. But then I found Orchid just online by chance. Like somebody was preaching about real screamo on a video interview with Alessana or something like that. And so I went over, and they were just like, "Oh, listen to real screamo. Listen to Seisha and Page 99 and Orchid." And I was like, "All right, fine." So I went over and listened to Orchid, and I was like, "Wow, this is quite amazing." And I guess the reason I love this shirt is just because it's the front cover of one of my favorite screamo albums. So yeah. I do wear it a lot, you're right in saying that. Thankfully, I've washed it a lot, so, you know. My friends are like, you're always wearing that shirt, and I'm like, yeah. And what?
Personally, my favorite is a third EP with Angela Davis on the cover. My favorite song is my favorite song's Tiger. So what can I say?
Fair enough, man.
But that is a really good album.
Yeah, it is a great album.
Okay, now, my next question is old video games.
Old video games. That's an interesting thing, actually. Like, video games is something I haven't been as avidly interested in for a while, but back before I played music, I was actually hugely into video games, and I've been getting more into them as of recently. I used to be back in the day. I had a Game Boy Color, and I used to play Pokemon on that all the time. That was kind of a year-long thing. I think I was hugely into Pokemon for a year, and then Mario has always been a huge part of my life. That's been as old as it gets. I would like to get kind of an old game system, Nintendo 64 or something like that. Just play classic games. That'd be nice.
Cool. Actually, the first portable game system that I ever got was on a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Blue. To be honest, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was 6.
I had red and yellow.
Pardon?
I had red and yellow. Those were the two I had.
Lucky.
Yeah, they were. It was interesting because they were my friends, but he just played them. He was like, I was like 7 years old, and he was like, "Do you want these?" And I was like, "Sure." Yeah.
That's how I got mine. Actually, it's like, well,
really?
My older brother's friend, like, he didn't really want his Game Boy Color and gave it to us. He just gave it to me. I was like 5,
Right.
6.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of people end up with those kind of old retro things, though.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, I would get back more into gaming. It's fun.
Yes, it is.
Back in the day, I used to have a YouTube channel. It's gone now, but I used to make like video game videos all the time.
Oh, I found it.
God damn it!
I found that channel.
Yeah, I was very young. That was embarrassing days. That was funny times, really.
I remember you also did a video discussing about where you referenced metalcore a lot when you were a bit younger as well.
Yeah, there's some really cringy videos. Like I remember doing this video where I did opinions on certain subgenres of metal,
Yes.
and I kind of watched it back and was like, "What are you talking about? You don't know anything. Shut up!" Like the whole video was like 13 minutes, and the whole time I was just like, "Shut up, shut up! You know nothing about this." And I deleted it.
Those videos aren't all bad.
Yeah, some of them are pretty funny, but just those ones.
Well, the March to Progress is filled with a lot of rusty nails on the floors.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, speaking of old videos and just videos in general, you also did some videos where you did short films. Explain that.
Well, back in the day, I was heavily into like a few filmmakers online. These guys like CA Cox 97, I think was one of them, and some other people. I can't specifically remember all the names, but they kind of just made these homemade films, and I thought, that's pretty cool. Maybe I should do that. So I got my friends together, and we did just kind of a few of these kind of like war simulator films and stuff. They didn't turn out great. In fact, one of them turned out so badly that last year I made a commentary making fun of one of them. But that was kind of just a hobby that we had for a while, my friends and I had for a while, and it kind of died away, and our passion for like making homemade movies didn't last, and our interest kind of moved away from that. But it was fun while it lasted.
They look like they were fun.
They were really fun. Good times.
Well, I mean, you could always use the skills you develop with making home movies in music videos eventually.
That's true. And I do plan on making a few kind of like, playthrough videos, I guess, in the future.
I will. I will be very. I will wait with. I'll wait. I will anticipate that eagerly.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hopefully I'll get around to having the time to make a decent one. Because the thing is with those movies is I rushed them in terms of editing so fast, and it was just that's one of the reasons I think they weren't that great. But if I take my time, then maybe these music videos will be okay.
Well, you could always just use. You could always just use slightly sloppy editing as like a style. I mean.
Yeah, like the lo-fi,
Yeah.
fidelity kind of style. Yeah, and that's what I have done in the past. I made a music video for a cover song I did on my first EP, which is a cover of a Deftones song, and I just compiled some free clips and put like a filter over them. It didn't take that long, and that turned out alright.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, I have to ask you about this crabcore.
Crabcore. Oh man. I think crabcore was the metalcore fad that everyone made fun of, and I kind of jumped on the making fun of crabcore bandwagon because it was just it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like even back when I loved metalcore, I was like, this is so dumb. So I remember posting like a photo of myself on Instagram with this bass I have somewhere. And it's kind of just me like down on the floor doing this because it's just such a ridiculous move. Like every time I see metalcore stage moves, like the jogging on the spot thing, when they do the kicking back their legs, it's just like. So metalcore dance moves, stop them now.
The reason I mentioned crabcore is because this is all. I'm sorry, I have to bring up the past again. With an earlier video you had made before, you talked about how much you enjoyed the music of Attack Attack.
I did. That's a guilty pleasure I used to have. Like back in the day, I used to think Attack Attack were really, really good, but like I don't listen to them much anymore. And if anything, if I ever listen to them, I'm kind of just like looking around the room hoping nobody will hear me listening to them. Because they were a very cheesy band. But back when I first discovered metalcore, I used to think they were great.
Yeah, I just remember that video. Everyone looked so into it.
Yeah, I know. I feel so bad for Andrew because he plays like groove metal now and like stuff that Periphery might play. And now he's got this, like, everyone's like, oh, Andrew Whiting, and everybody just remembers this emo head dude, this scene head kid, like, on the floor, like, with his guitar up here, and, like, hanging between his legs, and he's just like... And I feel bad for the guy for that, but, you know...
I feel bad for the guy, too.
Yeah.
Crabcore.
Cool.
Okay. Now, I have to ask you this next question. This one is on a more serious note, mental health.
Yes, mental health. Yeah. Mental health has always been something that's been quite close to me because I've known a lot of people who've struggled with it, and it's made me realize how, I guess, ignorant a lot of people are of mental health issues. Like, for example, my uncle ended his own life in 2008, and we had no idea he was so sad the whole time, because he just kept it so suppressed, and then one day he was just gone. I had a friend who was scarred in a particular way, and she told me several times, she wanted to kill herself, and that was a very harrowing experience, and one of the worst things about that was a lot of people didn't care. And so it's become something that's been very close to me, just close to my heart after that. And, I've written poetry and songs about mental health, and it's just something that I've always just, kept close to my heart, because I just feel as though it's not always as out there as a lot of other issues.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a scary thing, but,
Well, I have to agree. I have to agree with you on that. It is.
Yeah,
It's a serious issue. Not a lot of people take seriously.
I agree. And it's kind of sad because there's the people who do like the self harm thing for attention. It's very hard to distinguish between them and people who actually have issues.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Well, I have to say I commend you on on adding your voice to the discussion of mental health.
Thank you.
It's a very good thing.
Thank you very much. It's just I guess it's
Thank
necessary,
you.
you know.
It is. More artists should do that.
Yeah, I like seeing outspoken artists. It makes me respect them a lot about any issue really.
Speaking of outspoken artists, now you yourself are a bit of an outspoken artist. I have to
Yeah.
ask you, the friend zone.
The friend zone, yeah. One thing that really annoys me is I see guys, specific, like, I don't mean to generalize by gender. I see a lot of guys saying things like, oh, this girl friend zoned me. And I used to be the kind of guy like, oh, why, I'm so nice, why don't girls date me? But then you've got to realize no one is really obliged to like you because of common courtesy. And I guess it's just something I feel very strongly about because it's kind of like saying, oh, you don't feel for me, that's your problem and not mine somehow, and like this person just wants to live their life and you're like placing the blame for not liking them on you, on them, sorry. It's just something that I feel strongly about because I feel a lot of, well, as such, it's kind of a passive issue in society. It's not like it's not like something that would make news headlines, but it's just something I see a lot.
Very true.
Mm.
Well, realistically, well, I agree with you on that because you can't expect when opening a door for somebody, essentially, for example, is it's being nice. You don't expect
Yeah,
someone to just like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
it's
that.
common courtesy.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
creepy.
it's it's interesting.
It's kind of creepy,
It's like,
actually. You think someone's
yeah,
just gonna like
when you
you?
think about it, it's like, I'm nice to you. You have to date me now. Doesn't work that way.
No, no, it doesn't. All right, now my next question for you is this. Now, there's a Canadian band that I know that you liked or still like. 3 Days Grace.
3 Days Grace. Oh man, they were a band that I just had kind of, I guess, a momentary interest in. Like, this is back in 2009 when I first got into rock music at all. Like, this is the first time I ever heard an overdriven guitar on a track. They were kind of a band that I enjoyed the more popular songs of, I guess. And they were a band that I did like for a short period of time. I don't listen to them as much anymore, but they were kind of a gateway band into rock music, I guess.
Very cool. Yeah, some of the first riffs I myself learned on guitar were 3 Days Grace riffs.
Yeah, I learned a lot of Linkin Park, I think, when I first started playing guitar.
I've never. Sorry, I've just never heard anyone say that before. Actually, no,
Really?
Linkin Park riffs and everything. Well, this goes into my next question. You, Julian, have very wide musical tastes.
I do. My cat's here. Hang on, let me just sit down. There we go. Yeah, I do indeed. I think what was interesting about me having wide musical tastes, well, I guess you could say is interesting, is back in like 2012, I had this kind of death to all but metal attitude, which I am embarrassed to have ever kind of had. And I used to be kind of like that guy who's like, oh, every pop song under the sun is terrible because it's not metal. And I think over the years I've come to appreciate just kind of everything. Because I see lots of people just trying really hard to pretend to hate certain genres of music just because of how popular it is or how unpopular it is in some circumstances. And I just find myself thinking, if I find a band or a song or an album that I like, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'll buy this album. And I think a lot of my wide musical taste, I guess I have to thank my dad for that, because he likes all kinds of music.
Hmm. Very
So
cool.
that's where that comes from.
How does your wide musical? How would you say your wide musical taste? Would you say that it influences your writing, your song structures, just how you come up with your music, your artistry? Would you say that that affects you in any way?
I would say yes, it does, and I think it's especially prevalent on the first EP I ever released, because it was like I was into so many different genres of music that it actually ended up being all over the place, but not by my own will. It was kind of like, oh, I really want to do a song that sounds like something that Hotel Books would write, or I want to do something that sounds like something like Being as an Ocean would write,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wanted to do like a shoegaze song. Like I wanted to sound like, I don't know. I was going to say were, but I don't like were because they're transphobic. I'm trying to like push that out of the way and enjoy their music, but transphobia is not cool. But then I really wanted to sound like a really toned down like My Bloody Valentine, so I ended up covering a Deftones song in the shoegaze kind of way. And then I had this instrumental kind of like lo-fi song, and so I guess all my musical influences and my wide musical taste kind of influenced the EP. And when I finished it, I was like, wow, every song sounds different. So I guess it did by accident.
Hmm.
Yeah, it does influence me a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. Alrighty then. Now, my next question for you is this. So now, I have this is a line of questioning. So I have to ask you about scenes. Now, first I'd like to ask you the scene where you are in England. I have to ask you, what is the I guess emo screamo scrams, if you like
Yeah.
that term. What is the scene? What is that scene? What is the scene there like there where you are?
Okay, well, I'm from the east of England, and unfortunately, we don't have a big scene here, but the bands we do have are really quite something. We have two of my favorites from around here. Actually, they're from a place called Norwich. Both of the bands. There's this kind of like lo-fi, twinkly screamo band called Algae Bloom, and I've been to see them live in Norwich, and they are a very unique band. They kind of the best way of thinking about them is if American football kicked out Mike Kinsella and had the love child of Jason Green from Orchid and Jeff Smith from Jerome's Dream fronting the band. That's basically how you describe it.
Oh dear.
That's something I've always wanted to say, I think. And there's this really great screamo band that I guess in the vein of like Ampere and Orchid, a band called Cassis, who are releasing a new record, I think this week, hopefully, which you should all go check out on Bandcamp, by the way. But I've been to see them live. They were at the same show that I saw Algae Bloom at. Very very tight live screamo band. Great vocals, great guitar, really great drums. Just very passionate band about what they do and just incredibly good at writing the music that they write. So we don't have a whole lot of bands in the scene, but the ones we do have are very good, and they're just two that I think are really exceptional.
Hmm. Very cool. Very cool. I'll have to ask some bands to check out now.
You do.
Now, what do you know? Do you know any bands from the now? This is for over here. Do you know any bands? Any say bands within that genre from on this side of the pond in say Toronto slash Mississauga or Mississauga specifically, I guess.
There is a band that I'm aware of, which I haven't listened to a whole lot. They're a screamo band called I Hate Sex. That is the actual name of the band.
Yeah.
I've heard they're pretty good. Algae Bloom actually recommended them on their Bandcamp, so I think I'm going to check them out soon. There's also this kind of like bedroom pop musician called Nicole Dollenganger, I think her name is. And she's kind of at the top of the bedroom pop Bandcamp thing, next to like Crywank and what's the other one that's really popular? Oh, Cyberbully Mom Club. But yeah, she's at the top, and I've listened to a few of her stuff, and her voice is mesmerizing. So I've those are about the most ones I've heard from Canada. I might be missing a few.
Okay. Well, over here, if you are very interested in music in this particular area of Canada, or you ever come here for touring one day, hopefully. We have we have an interesting emo slash scram scene. The main ones I know of in my hometown, Mississauga, is there's a band called Terry Green.
Terry Green. I've not heard of them. I'll check them out.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. The best way they've been described as like pop punk with the power violence vocals. Their sound isn't pop punk. It's just when you actually know like the progressions they're playing underneath like all the noodling and all the like different riffs and everything, you'll know that it's no regular progressions. It's just that it's played in a way that you wouldn't know.
That's interesting.
Then there's Animal Faces. They're another interesting band. You should check them out. Their band. They have their newest album is a bit different than their first two, but their first two are basically like their classics of Canadian post-hardcore.
Okay.
Their guitar player is it's just one guitar player, but the chord voicings he uses are amazing. There was another band. What other band I'm thinking of? Then there's. It's fine. I'll just edit that out of the video.
That's alright.
Yeah, I do a lot of edits. Oh, where was I? Yeah. There's Peace Be Still. They sound kind of like, Texas Is the Reason.
Yeah.
They sound kind of like Texas Is the Reason. The best way I could describe it is like Texas and the Reason, kind of a mix, sort of a Midwestern, kind of like Captain Jazz, Texas and the Reason style, emo band, emo post-hardcore band with rougher vocals.
Okay.
And who else is there? Oh, and then there's a guy, so we have some classics. I Spoke. They're kind of a classic, kind of in the style of Orchid or Stacia Reminiscent.
Cool.
They're a classic band. You can get most of their albums off of Bandcamp, actually. And there's a bit of a longer list, but we'd be here all day.
Fair enough. I'll check out the ones you tell me about, though.
So yeah, if you're ever over on this side, of the world, we welcome you with open arms, I must say.
Nice. Thank you.
Alright, now, my next question is this. What drives you to make music? What drives you to play guitar? What drives you just in general to make music, make art? What drives you?
I guess something that drives me to make music is, I guess, personal experience. I guess if you ever have a bad personal experience, I've always found music is something that I always turn to, and it's lots of people have said this. Music isn't something that shouts at you; it shouts with you. And I think that's a great way of describing it, because it's that kind of art that you express yourself through. Art is something that people express themselves through, whether it's like writing music or poetry or painting or whatever. And I think the people that I love are something that I've always used as a drive for my music, and just if I'm ever stressed, music's always been there for me, I guess. So that's what really drives me, because I feel like I owe something to music.
Well said. Well said. Now, this is about your history. You got into music at a young yet late phase. You got into music at 11 years old.
Yes.
Explain that.
Well, basically, I've been playing violin since I was 7, but the thing is, I played it at school, and it was very boring, because they basically put you on the strict guideline of you taste pieces, and then you do an exam, and then you repeat the process and do a different exam for like grade 2. And that really bored me and actually kind of drove me away from music. But then I kind of discovered guitar, and I was like, all right, there seems to be a lot more creative freedom with this. And the guy who taught me was never kind of like forceful about anything. He wasn't like, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. He gave me like all this creative freedom and like kind of let me learn songs that I wanted to. And obviously now he kind of teaches me on a more strict guideline, but I'm okay with that. It's time that I focused on the things I'm not so good at with guitar. But I kind of got into playing music when I started playing guitar, because it was something I enjoyed so much.
Very cool. 11 is an odd age to get into music. Exactly.
I agree.
It's a bit late in some instances, but at the same time, it's not. It's young at the same time. it's a very interesting age. Would you say that the age at which you got into music has kind of has been helpful, or give you a different perspective in how you look at music, or how would you say that's affected? How would you say it's affected you going forward?
I do feel as though I might have been like at that stage if I got into music a little bit earlier. Because as you say, 11 is really strange age to get into music. Like, because you're probably thinking that it kind of just appeared in my life like boom, and that's basically how it was. I just kind of like discovered that I really liked music one day and playing music. But I think maybe if I started earlier, I might be better at it now. But I've just committed a lot of time to it already. So, I'm not sure how much it would have affected it if I started earlier.
Well, who knows, if you start early, you might be in a Led Zeppelin cover band right now.
That's true. That's probably true. I probably would have just been like weaned onto all the stuff my dad used to listen to, and I probably would be in like a Pink Floyd tribute band.
Yeah.
Trust me, I see those kind of bands live all the time.
Oh dear.
They're all like 65.
Now, my next question is Adele. Just
Adele.
in general, Adele.
She's got a great voice. I obviously, I don't see any wrong with Adele, honestly. Like, I know she's like top charting artist, but popularity doesn't really affect how much I like artists at all. I just think she's got a great voice, and she's a very charismatic human being. So, big ups to Adele. Shout out to Adele.
By any chance, when you listen to her song "Hello," do you feel any recollection to Lionel Richie? Lionel Richie.
Oh yeah, I do. It's just when I listen to I try not to like hear the comparison, because when I hear it, I hear her saying saying hello, and then I hear Lionel replying to it, and it's just like ruined the atmosphere of the whole song. I think Vine already ruined that though.
Yeah. Oh yes. Now, my next question for you is this. My question is, why scram? Why scrams? Why emo? Why scream? Why these genres in this genre in particular? Why that in particular? What drew you to that?
I think interestingly, it was kind of this fresh sounding guitar sound, like the twinkly sound, kind of captivated me when I listened to Neverment for the first time. I was like, wow, I've not heard something like this before. There's something about the guitar playing that's very interesting. And then when I listened to, I think, Seisha for the first time, they were the first screamo band I really listened to besides Orchid. First time I listened to them, I thought, these vocals are horrible. How the hell can anyone listen to this guy? Like, he literally sounds like he's ruining his vocal cords, and he was. But I thought, like, after listening to it for a while, there was this kind of passion behind it that I'd never heard in anything else. And I was like, wow, this is something I'd like to do. And so, I kind of got into, like, American Football, Tiny Moving Parts, TTNG, and a lot more kind of screamo outfits. And nowadays, I imagine someday I will find a band that surprises me, but a lot of, like, screamo bands don't really surprise me anymore with the way their vocals are portrayed, with the exception of a few bands I've heard. But I've heard Jerome's Dream's vocals, so nothing can really compare to that.
Yeah.
I love Jerome's Dream, though. I'm not sure how I ended up getting into them, but I have the discography CD, so yeah. So I got into them, and it's just this kind of raw passion behind the music that I've not heard in anything else. And with emo, there's this kind of like, I know the lyrics are quite sad, but there's something not overly dramatic about it that you hear this kind of like over dramatic, whiny stuff in like commercial emo, I guess. The stuff that people would label as emo, like My Chemical Romance, for example.
For me, my quintessential emo band is The Rites of Spring.
True. Yeah, and there's obviously Captain Jazz, allegedly the original iconic emo band. Obviously, it's interesting though because they're so happy.
Yeah.
Captain Jazz, they're the most happy-go-lucky band you've ever heard in your life. But it just sounded like Tim Kinsella got drunk and just recorded all of his vocal tracks like while completely drunk. It was great.
I believe.
I listen to Captain Jazz on a daily basis, so
I believe that. I believe that he probably did that while he was drunk. I believe that. Now, my next question is, now, in terms of these genres, now I have to ask you as well, you once described a bit of, not disliking, but you described a bit of, how would I say, you would take the genre labels with a grain of salt. So my question is, like, the term screamo or emo or scrounge, like, you approach these things with a grain of salt themselves. Explain that.
yeah, I used to have this huge distaste for the term screamo. Like before I really got into the genre and realized, oh yeah, there is actually a genre called screamo and a genre called emo. I kind of thought these labels are really cringy and like just difficult to say. They're just like, oh yeah, I play in a screamo band, and then it just kind of got easier, and I don't mind those labels anymore.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, nothing's wrong with the labels themselves. It's usually when people start mislabeling everything that
Yeah, that's when it gets annoying.
Because yeah, like the first time I listened to Springer or Fugazi, I'm like, wait, so these are post-hardcore bands? I thought post-hardcore was this other thing. It's so different. Very cool. Now, my next question for you is Cubase.
Cubase, yes. Cubase is something I started using back in school. It was the program we were taught to use, and I got to love it really quickly. And then so I kind of like installed it on my computer, and that's what I use to record most things. I do have Logic, but don't use it as much.
Cool. Well, I mean, with the type of music, with the music that you make, that you made so far, I personally don't see any reason why you would need to change your setup. That's just me as a fan.
Thank you.
That's just what I mean as a fan.
Thank you very much.
Now, my next question for you is imagery.
Imagery. Well, like as in lyric imagery and lyrics.
Both lyrical imagery and just aesthetic imagery, like your albums, your
oh sure, yeah,
images, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
With the first EP, there's the kind of the idea of the bird perched on the wire over the mountains. I just thought it was kind of it was an interesting aesthetic, really. There wasn't much symbolism and stuff in it. It just kind of referred more to one of the tracks, which was called As Birds, and I decided to have that representing the I guess, on the album cover. It was just the idea of, being free and stuff like that, which is what As Birds is about, I guess. It's kind of a generic concept, but it's something that I wanted to write about. And the split, there was just a picture of a road, and it was kind of this bizarre kind of, the abstract emo aesthetic that you see, like pictures of framed pictures, like low fidelity family images and stuff they have. I just wanted to kind of go for that. So there's not much symbolism behind that. Lyrics always have meant a lot to me. The interesting thing is Ethereal, which is the first track on Contrast, it's actually a narrative about this guy who loses his wife, who he loves dearly, and it's kind of his, like, I guess it's a lament. So none of the songs on Contrast are really, like, that personal in terms of, like, personal experience, but the split, both songs were quite personal. Like, Hushed Voices is about a person, and Early Hours is, like, just about overthinking, I guess.
Very cool. All right, now my this isn't one I really have to ask. So the names Fire in the Ocean and Papersky.
Okay, so Fire in the Ocean didn't really have much symbolism. It was basically just the overdramatic mind of a 13-year-old boy create this idea of you can't really have a fire in the ocean without putting like an oil slick over the top of it and setting fire to the oil, because oil floats on the top of water, and if you were to set fire to the ocean, it wouldn't really work without that. So it's kind of interesting. I was like, wow, you can't set fire to the ocean. Not inspired by an Adele lyric, by the way. Paper Sky has a little bit more significance. There's a play called A Streetcar Named Desire by a guy called Tennessee Williams. I'm sure you've heard of it. And this character called Blanche, who's the protagonist, effectively sings this song about a paper moon, and the lyric is, "It's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea." And I thought, my English teacher said something about it being to do with frailty, and I was like, that would make sense. I doubt a paper moon could hold its own in the sky, and so I thought, paper sky. I didn't really. I think paper moon was that great of one to have, so I called it paper sky to kind of have this frailty kind of image.
Cool. Well, I think I have to say, Julian, you are the first person I've heard of to name their band in reference to a streetcar named Desire that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's don't know if I'm ashamed of that.
Don't be ashamed. That's it. I love it.
I do like Streetcar. It's good.
I do love it. I mean, I would have named my band Blanche, but I mean yours is deeper. Yours is much deeper than what I could come up with. My last question for you, Julian, is this: what are your plans for the future?
Okay, well, I've been kind of tussling between the ideas of doing a new EP or a new album, and I think I decided mainly because after doing a split and an EP, I want to do a full length, maybe of 10 tracks. I think it's going to take a while to make, but I do plan on making a full length for definite. I may also do. I've been thinking of doing like a small cover compilation as well of just songs of bands that influenced me, like a couple I could give away. For example, like "Angel in the Snow" by Elliott Smith and "Never Meant" by American Football. So those are the two things I want to focus on mainly, and then whatever comes next, I'm not sure.
Very cool. I can't wait.
Well, thank you.
I can't wait.
And I can't wait to see how it turns out.
It'll turn out great. If it's even half as good as your last releases, it'll be great.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you, sincerely. It means a lot.
And on a side note, also, this is just a side thing as well. You are very active on Instagram with your guitar playing and everything. I have to say, I watch your videos sometimes, and I want to burn my guitar the next day.
Oh man, no! Don't say that. I hear that all the time. Like, there's this guitar player who I look up to called Ryan Siu. He's just a year older than me, I think, and like all I see in his comments is like, besides people complimenting him, obviously, it's like, oh my god, I watched this video and threw my guitar out the window. Don't give up. I used to look at people like, say, Guthrie Govan, and I'd just be like, oh, it's gonna like disappear now. But then I realized, actually no, this is really inspirational. So if you see a guitar player you think is better, then you just take inspiration from him. That's all. That's just how I kept going with guitar, really. Just, that's what I'd say to anyone who's kind of aspiring to be a guitar player.
I must say, your Instagram page, is that the correct term?
Account page? I'm not sure what it is.
Instagram. Okay, whatever the kids call it today. Your Instagram.
Whatever those darn kids are calling it now. Exactly.
Your Instagram page, I must say, is very inspirational.
Thank you.
I hope I myself am inspired by it. I hope it inspires many budding guitarists within the, shall we say, post-hardcore spectrum of guitar playing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Julian, for an awesome interview.
And thank you for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure. It really has.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Keep up the music.
I will. Keep up the good interviews.
I will. All right.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Bye.